live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The nasty winter cold front wind that swept us away yesterday has calmed. The clouds have moved on. This is Safari Live. Ready.
Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live. You are live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a much calmer, much more pleasant sunrise safari. Yesterday was windy and cold, and there was clouds in the skies, and well, as you can see, it's clearing and starting to move away, and there really is not even a breath of wind. So it promises to be a fantastic morning out and about, and a fantastic weather for a safari. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I have got Sebastian, and we are going to be out and about trying to go and see if we can't find any signs of lions this morning. There was reports of the Styx Pride to the east coming westward, so maybe they might be hanging around on the southeastern boundary, should I say. And we had reports last night that the Nkahuma Pride crossed all the way into Londolozi and may have or may not have bumped into the Salalas. They were on a crash course for one another, and so it may be just we'll find out what happened just now, that if the Nkahumas might have clashed, they could have walked back into this area and maybe just on our side. So lots of potential for lions. I know that a lot of you have also let us know that there was a leopard sawing on the cam, so we're going to try and follow up on that as well. So thank you for all of those people that did let us know. And remember, the rest of you can use hashtag Safari Live to get hold of us on Twitter if you want to be able to tell us anything more about if you heard anything on Damcam. Chantal tells me that Thandi and Tumber were also seen, so if anybody has more information about where they were seen, that would be fantastic. And then just if you want to ask any questions or say hello from wherever you're watching from. Right, Seb, lots of potential, so let's go see what we can find. I think Ali is going to be heading the northern boundary and checking up that way. We're going to slowly just head down towards the south and check the western boundary. I'm not sure if she's going to go try and follow up on the Styx tracks, but I will get hold of her just now and find out exactly what her plan is. And while we do that, she can actually tell you her plan herself.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another gorgeous morning out. We are quite far away from the reports where the Styx were last seen. Whoop. I'm going back down. Right, seems like we're fighting gremlins earlier on. Haven't had all my coffee yet, so I'm sure we'll be fine. Like I said, or anything else around us, you please are more than welcome to send us your questions using the hashtag Safari Live, and we are busy trying to head into the northern part of our boundary. And right over there's a beautiful little dove already calling, work harder, work harder. So I don't know if it's referring to my tracking or my driving.
I think you heard the whole sentence. I think it said work harder, Ali.
So Ferg this morning woke up in a bit of a very funny mood. So he's just saying work harder, Ali, because Ferg is already working super hard. Oh, yeah. Is it really? Is it that way?
That's how it is.
Right. I know Tristan mentioned that we are quite far south and following the tracks of the Styx, but I think he just hasn't had enough coffee yet. We are definitely far away from where the tracks were seen, and he's a bit closer to them. So I think maybe I'm just gonna pass on that update to him so that he has a bit of a look. As a matter of fact, Tristan, for Ali, Tristan. Sorry guys, 1 second. No, I'm gonna go Buffelshoek boundary, but Andrew's update was the Nkonzo for the Styx came west from the Molowanini, so I thought maybe you wanted to go and check around that area. Sorry guys, he talks a lot on the radio. No, that's fine. I'll eventually make my way there, so if you want to check, you're welcome to. I'm pretty much on the opposite end. Okay. Alright, seems like we've got a very indecisive Tristan. He wants to track them all. He wants to find Tingana, he wants to find Thandi, he wants to find Thamba, he wants to find the Nkahumas, and he wants to find the steaks. So, I think maybe Fergie, you were right. It's gonna be a good morning. We're gonna have lots of things around. And I think maybe it is time to start driving eastwards to where the sun is still not shining yet, and we can see what it is that is all the way out there. Now, let's try our best, see if perhaps we can find the gremlins. Hopefully they'll be far away from us as we carry on this beautiful morning drive. It's amazing how many things were around the dam camp. Alright, we shall carry on, but in the meantime let's go to Tristan and find out what he is going to be looking for this morning.
I'm torn between so many options, and it's all really overwhelming a little bit. But I believe you all saw Thandi, or some of you saw Thandi and Tumber on the dam cam this morning, not too long ago, and there's some francolins that are alarm calling not too far away here, so I just want to quickly go and check that they're not behind the dam wall. I have a sneaky suspicion that these two have been sitting on a kill the last 2 days, and that we've just didn't manage to find it. It was in the Mulawati, and I think that's where they've been. So I want to just quickly check around to the other side of this drainage. There's a little section where I can get in and see if I can't find these two maybe resting on the backside of this dam wall. But it will be very interesting if Thandi and Tumber were up this side. It really kind of shows that she is pushing more and more into this area, and the fact of the matter is if she did have a kill in here, this is really the only water source besides twin dams that she could have traveled to be able to get the water she needs. So I want to quickly just check on the other side here, but that's a really exciting news that she's around. Can you see her?
Yeah.
Ah!
1 o'clock.
Sebastian, you champion, well done. So we've already found our leopard. It's sitting just in the gully right over there. Now it looks like actually maybe Tumber that might be sitting there. I can't see nicely, it is quite far away, but look at that, isn't that cool? Good morning, mister. Yes, it is Tumber. It's our little champion who is sitting there. Now, I don't see any signs of Thandi just yet, but I would imagine she is here. But those francolins were going crazy, and well, thank you to all of you for letting us know that you did see them. Isn't this the best way to start Catterday? We've got a leopard in the first 5 minutes of drive, really, on Catterday, which is fantastic. So, James, you were saying cats for Catterday. Well, yes, Feline Friday was a bit of a flop, and there we go. So we now have cats for Saturday or Catterday, and that is the best way to start the day. Now, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to just try and reposition ourselves a little bit. Where he's sitting now is in a little steep gully, and from this side, it's not going to be that pleasant. If I can get to the other side of where he is and just get a little bit lower than him, we're going to have the most beautiful sighting, particularly because the sun is going to come from that side. So we'll try and see if we can't get some sun on his face. Seb, let's try and see if we can't get round. Right, so we're going to reposition. We're going to try and see if we can't find a better way to view little Tumber. And while we do that, let's go across to Ellie so she can tell us now what her plans are going to be and what cat she's going to find for Catterday.
Yay! Well done, Tristan and Seb. How amazing, Tumber, so early on in the morning. I'm super excited. I was just laughing because I think Tumber and Tristan have got a bit of a bromance going on because they always seem to bump into each other. So I'm not too sure what they're up to, but well done to everyone who said or who sent us the reports of them being seen in the dam camp, because that's exactly where they've been, and I'm sure the last few days that's where Thandi and Thamba have been. So yay, this was I think it was a team effort. Well done to everyone involved.
Teamwork for everyone.
Yeah. Wonderful. Now I'm still hoping for the wild duck somewhere along our drive, but if not, then we'll eventually go all the way to roughly the direction where the Nkahumas and the sticks were reported to be walking into, and we'll see, maybe they'll be somewhere around there. I'm hoping, yeah, some lions would be nice this morning. And maybe Thamba will stick around long enough for me to be able to see him. Such big feet, and he's still the visible leopard to me. Which proves that it's very hard. If a leopard doesn't want you to find them, then you will not. Doesn't matter what you do. But yay, very excited that Seb spotted it. We all had a very strong feeling that they've been hanging around in that drainage line, which is very thick. I believe also the Nkuhumas used to like it. So yay for Thamba and Tristan and Seb. Alright, let's focus on our tracks here. Nothing of too much consequence that I can see all around here. Maybe other things. Who knows, maybe we will bump Tingana now. Interesting that Tingana was in that area somewhat close to Thandi and Thamba. I think these leopards around this area, they're a bit more sociable than we give them credit for. Alright, what is that? That is not a relevant track. Elephant track, I didn't see it. Oh, irrelevant track. That flew completely past me, Ferg. I'm sorry. I don't think I'm at your level just yet. Might have to carry on having a bit more coffee. And then taking it easy. Alright. Come, universe. Okie dokie. Seems like Tristan found a much better spot that he was sitting in, so let's head over and start a morning with a very beautiful Thamba.
Indeed, and look at those beautiful eyes. He's just looking up into the trees right now. I'm trying to see what he's staring at, but I can't actually. Oh, big yawn. Good morning, little one. Has it been a long night? Now, I know Ali says I've got a bromance with Tumber, but how can you not have a bit of a love for a cat that looks like that? He is so pretty, and he just seems to have such a character about him. I always like his sort of intriguing look and the way that everything he has to analyze and has to see what it is. Now, Rusty's being naughty and trying to slide back down the bank, so there might be a little bit of a jerk on the car as there we go, that's better. So I just pulled the handbrake up to make sure. Now, he's watching actually some doves that are sitting directly above me. Are they doves or go-away birds? No, they're doves that are sitting above me, and that's what he's busy looking at with those longing eyes, like I want to go and chase you, but that tree is far too flimsy for me to get on. The doves are sitting on tiny little spindly branches, and so I don't think he's going to be able to get down there. Oh, and an itchy back as well. Now, I don't see any sign of Thandi. We came down into this area, and I don't think she's actually here. I think she's left him again to go off and do her thing, and he knows now it's just time to sit in this area. But isn't this cool? What an epic way to start the day. And a big yawn. So, Tam, you're commenting about how beautiful Thumba's eyes are, and you want to know how old he is again. Well, I'm just trying to think now exactly when he was born, but I think it was about this time last year, so he's about a year old now. I know some of you will be able to tell me exactly when he was born, but I've just drawn a blank. I think he was born in July, if I remember correctly. May have been a little bit after that, but I think July was when he was born, so just under a year old now. And are you going to show us your backside now? Okay, well, this is typical of a little young male leopard, so there we go, July is correct. So he's just under a year old, and for a year-old leopard, he is in perfect condition. He's not the biggest. Hosanna was actually, funny enough, bigger at a year-old. I think Hosanna was slightly taller than what Tumber is, but Tumber is very stocky in comparison. He's got these very wide sort of shoulders, and his forelegs are massive. He's got big feet, and it was funny because we were talking about it the other day when we were tracking him. One of the trackers here thought they were tracking Tingana because of the size of his feet. In soft sand, they are massive. They do look like a big male track, so he's got very large feet, which is always a sign that these animals will get a little bit bigger. Now, with young male leopards, everybody always says their young male leopard is the biggest and will be the biggest, and I don't think he's going to be as big as somebody like Anderson, but I definitely think he's going to be a very bulky leopard like Mvula and Tingana have both become. They're both quite wide, stocky animals, and I think that's exactly the direction that he's going to head. He reminds me so much of Thandi's first son, Wabayiza, very similar in the way that they are built, but Wabayiza had a slightly different look to him. He had a very dark black nose and looked a bit more like Mvula, but they were both also stocky, big, beautiful eyes, and both of them quite curious in nature. The interesting thing was that Wabayiza was actually a lot more sort of shy than what Thamba has become, and I think it's because Thamba has had a lot more time with vehicles. Wabayiza grew up inside Torchwood, which is a low density area when it comes to vehicles, and really didn't get that much exposure to cars, whereas Thamba has grown up in and around Chitwa and therefore has had a lot of exposure to not only vehicles but also people on foot around Chitwa Lodge, and that means that he's become a lot more relaxed. And you can see, look at him, he's really not too fazed by us at all. The fact that a young leopard has turned its back to us completely generally shows that he really isn't stressed by our presence at all, which is very cool to see. It's nice that we've got a leopard that is in that way. So hopefully this is going to be a leopard that's going to spend a lot of time around our area. So Lauren from Illinois, Chantal, just correct me if I'm wrong, if I get this wrong, but I think you said, do I know who Thamba's sister is that died? I think that's what you said, Chantal, is that right? Suspected dad. Oh, okay, sorry, I misheard that completely. I'm down in the dip here and it's a little bit scratchy, the comms that I get. But the suspected father for this leopard is Tingana. That's who we think it is. Of course, it could also be, funnily enough, Quarantine, which would be weird, but there's also Shivambalana that was in that area. So Thandi was in that whole section with Shivambalana, Quarantine, and Tingana. Now, Quarantine wasn't that dominant a year ago, so more than likely it would be Tingana or Shivambalana that are the parents for, or the dad for this. Now, that begs the question, if it's Shivambalana or Quarantine, that would actually mean that he's been a little bit of incest, because remember, Thandi is Karula's firstborn, and then Shivambalana and Quarantine came after that from Karula as well. So it was basically like brothers mating with sisters, which is not ideal. The thing is, though, is that even if that has happened, you will find a situation where those males or females that have bred have had different fathers, and so hopefully there's slight genetic differences there. But it does happen from time to time where you will get a bit of incest or inbreeding. It just means that there wasn't a big male that pushed out that particular youngster, or the female has shifted so far from her natal territory that she's then being put in the lineup with other males that have come from her mother. So it is possible, but more than likely, more than anybody, I would imagine it's Tingana. He was the one that was seen mating very frequently with Thandi around the time that would work out for Thamba. So in my opinion, it would be Tingana. Now, I'm going to try and get a position that I don't have to look at Thamba's backside. As much as we like it, it's going to be better if we look at his face. And so while we reposition, I believe Ali has got a beautiful view of the golden orb as it rises over the eastern boundary.
Beautiful golden globe it is, and it seems like it's a bit of a sandwich in between the two clouds, but it's looking quite stunning. And how amazing is this? A leopard before sunrise. So well done, Seb and Tristan, and well done, Thamba, for being there and just being able, just letting us find you. Now this is what the sunrise looks like this morning, and I think it's quite a stunning sunrise. Not as many clouds as we had yesterday, that is for sure, but still quite a few of them. Beautiful. Go all the way up. Whew. Ah, it looks like it's got eyes, almost. Yeah, it's a Pac-Man, or I'm actually seeing a gigantic frog eating an egg. I know this is probably not very...
That's strong coffee, eh?
It's very strong coffee indeed, but I see the two eyes on top where the clouds are a bit lighter, and then, you know, just kind of like the top lip, the edge of the cloud. So I don't know if you guys used to play this as kids, but when I was little, my grandma was always trying to get us to see shapes in the clouds. And I think maybe she damaged me. Because now I see very unusual things in the clouds. That's beautiful. It's amazing how quickly it rises up. Natalie, you're saying this is beautiful. I agree with you. I think there's something stunning about just stopping and letting yourself appreciate a sunset or a sunrise. It's almost like, it's that moment of stillness, of just being there and being grateful for what you're looking at before forgetting all about it and heading into your normal daily routine. So it is quite stunning what we're looking at, just with that cassia there on the right-hand side. And still quite a bit of a thick cloud that the sun has got to come over, but I'm sure as it rises above and it starts shining beautifully on the horizon, then all these clouds around us are going to be pushed away, and very likely we're going to have a very hot afternoon today, which I'm quite looking forward to, because yesterday was very, very cold. Who knows? Aaron, you're saying that is a big sun. Yep, it is a big sun. And I think funny enough, it's the same with the moon and the sun. When they are coming up the horizon, because we have so many things to compare the size to, we think that it's actually bigger than when it is all the way up in the sky. But it's just a visual game. It's an illusion, because they're always the same size, according to many things that I have read, because I was sure that there was a bit of a different position and maybe they were at a different angle and so on, but no, it seems like our eyes are just that easily fooled. But if they are fooled into such beauty, I am fine with that. Alright, let's see if perhaps we can carry on, find out where the sticks were. We're still quite far away, but why not? Let's make our way all the way down there. I think somebody's trying to get a hold of Andrew, can I help you go with your message? We'll see. A firm, Tristan has got Thamba by the dam wall at Vuyatela Dam. I think Ralph put you in the lineup. I think you were expected to go there and join him. And I know there's another station also heading there. Ooh. Come on, Wendy! You can do this! Okay, copy. Once I'm closer, I'll get a hold of them and find out. Thank you. Alright. Ashes 1, you're wondering if it ever snows here. No, in this particular area it doesn't snow. Sometimes we get a bit of a frost in the mornings, particularly close to the riverbeds, I would say more towards July and August. So if you were to go down, you will see tiny little ice, or like an ice layer of glittering frozen stuff on top of the leaves. But here where we are, it doesn't. In some other areas of South Africa, however, it does. In Cape Town, I think there was snow there in the Karoo recently somewhere. And in Johannesburg, oddly enough, every now and again it also snowed. So thankfully we're quite lucky here where we don't get snow, but who knows, with this crazy climate change and things that we are starting to see that are a bit different from what we have experienced, maybe one day we'll get a bit of snow in certain areas that are a bit... Oh my goodness, that was a Duiker! Hello! Well, that was quite quick of you, mister. Will you stay long enough for us to say hello? Hello, there's a Duiker. Came flying through the bushes, run in front of the road, and cross the road. So this is actually fantastic, as they don't tend to stick around for too long. This is called either a grey or a common Duiker. Very beautiful little creature. This is a male because it's got those two tiny horns, and the females, they've got no horns. Looking at us with quite a lot of curiosity, isn't he? And off it goes. And you're still quite relaxed, aren't you? Ah, scent marking there, were we? So they are territorial little creatures, and that beautiful black part around their face, I don't know if you noticed earlier on, they've got some scent glands there, and they use it to, pretty much like some of the other animals, they rub their faces against the bushes just to mark their territory in a particular area. Alright, it seems like he's gone a bit too far into the bushes, and the grass is a bit long where he is, so we are going to carry on, see what else is around. So far, so good. Good to see a Duiker. We don't get to spend too much time with them because they are so little and so nervous that it's hard to, well, it's first of all to spot them, but a lot of the times this is how we see them, just flying across the road and then jumping. And of course they're called Duiker from a word in Afrikaans. Well, the word Duiker means diver, and it refers to the way that they jump, because they'll go like this almost, so it's almost like they diving into the grass. I like them. What is this? This is... What are you? This is more hyena tracks, I believe. I want to have a bit of more of a closer look. It's looking a bit funny to me. No, but definitely a hyena track. I don't know if maybe you can show them, just so that we can have a look at the hyena tracks on the side of the road. Let me unplug myself. Can you see this one nicely? Okay, so very distinctive shape of the hyena. It looks like a very disorganized shape, let's put it that way, in the terms of the toes. Because there's one toe here, another one that's a bit close to this one, and then another toe here. So some of them almost look like banana shaped. So it's an easy way of recognizing them. But also back here, the back part, it's got only one lobe here and then the second lobe there. So it doesn't have three like the cat. If it were a cat, it would have another one in there in the middle, which this one doesn't. So it's been a young-ish hyena and pretty much moving that way. And then there are some other tracks for another hyena also going this way. I thought I saw one of them going that way. So I'm sure they've been around during the night just looking for food, or maybe even patrolling the territory. See, perhaps they knew that Tingana was somewhere around here and they started following him. It wouldn't surprise me. But, good to know. Alright. Like hyenas we go. Let's see if maybe we can bump into one of them on the road. While we go following the sunrise and see where it leads us, let's go back to Tristan, who's got another beautiful view of, I'm sure, his favorite, the young boy Thamba.
Well, we do indeed, and how can that not be a favorite? Look at him. He is such a cool cat. And you can actually see now, interestingly enough, a few months ago, it was about, I'd say 2 months ago, I saw Tumber, and we could see that he still had his milk teeth in. So he had 2 sets of canines in the top and bottom, but you can see those milk teeth are now gone, and his bigger teeth have come through. And so he no longer has these 2 sets of canines in his top and bottom jaw. They're all back to normal now, and so he's just fine. Now you're going to turn now behind the only bush that is there. Yes, it seems so. Now it's time for a little grooming. He's been a sleepy cat though. He's been lying and having a really good nap. Even the green pigeons that were sitting above him earlier that he was watching flew away, and he didn't really respond to that. So I think it's been a very lazy start to his morning so far. Let's see where he goes. The sun is probably going to peak shortly just over, and I'm hoping he's going to continue to lie where he is, because if that sun hits him where he is, it's going to be perfect. Are you going to come over the top for us? There we go. That's better. Are you a sleepy cat boy? Has it been a long day already? So, Guy, you say Tumber is so handsome. He's grown into those ears. Well, indeed, he has become a very pretty boy, and in fact he's going to continue to grow into those ears. And I think for me it's just the contrast between his very gold coat that he's got, and this is quite common with males. They'll often have a little bit more gold color in their coat. In fact, his coat is almost orange. I took some pictures of him the other day and I was trying to edit them, and it keeps looking as though his coat is too orange, but now that I sit with him now, it is that way. His coat is very orangey gold in color, and so he's got that, and then those black outer sort of edges of his eyes followed by the light greenish colored eyes make him very striking to look at. So he is a very beautiful cat, and well, I'm just so happy that he's been spending so much time around Djuma. You know, he's a cat that I didn't think we would get to see nearly as much with our traversing sort of changing slightly, and I thought we would be struggling a little bit with him and Thandi, but it seems like Thandi is wanting this Mulawati for herself, and given that there's no sign of Karula at the moment and nobody calling or trying to take over here, I think she's decided that this is where she's going to move in. And well, we're not complaining. I would love to have Thandi and Tumber here on a more permanent basis and see them daily. It will be fantastic if we do, and hopefully that is going to be the case. The two of them will set up in this area, and wouldn't it be nice if it's a common sight on the dam cam at night as the two of them lounging on the dam wall and walking around this area? Seb, I certainly won't complain, will you?
No, definitely not.
Of course, it means that if Thandi does move in here, it's going to become very tough for Shongile. I think our sightings of Shongile on this sort of section are going to change somewhat if Thandi spends more time here. Given that she is larger, more experienced, she might push Shongile a little bit further, either to the south or north, or maybe even a little bit to the west. But we know that Shadow is west of us, and so I don't think Shongile is going to be able to be in this area for that much longer if these two older sisters push into these sections and take over. So it's a little bit of a sort of heavy heart if you think of it. It's a catch-22 situation. It's beautiful to have Thandi and Thamba, but I don't really want Shongile to be pushed out, and so hopefully we come to an arrangement where Thandi just takes the Mulawati and the east, and then little Shongile can take the central sections and northwards, and then we'll all be happy, and Shadow in the southwest, and then it's all sorted. What do you think, Seb? I think that'll be perfect. 3 female leopards.
Ideal.
Happy days.
Ideal.
Yes,
sure.
I think so. That's going to be what we're going to hope for. I really want to try and get an update on Shongile. I was talking a bit about her last night, and the fact that the guys in the south haven't seen much of her, and they said the last time they saw her she was really looking very healthy and good, and she had a good meal and was with Hasana, but they haven't seen her in the last few days. And I know we had tracks for a young female leopard around Philemon's cut line, so I wonder if little Shongile is just hanging around somewhere in this area and has been on a kill or something, and that's why we haven't found them. The conditions that we've had over the last few days have been perfect for predators to hunt, and so it wouldn't surprise me in the least if they actually have been hunting, and maybe Shongile has been successful and she's somewhere here and we just haven't managed to find her yet. Much like what we saw with Thandi and Tumber yesterday, they must have been in this drainage section and we just didn't manage to find them. So it's the way it goes sometimes. Now, Adele, you're wondering how many leopards we have in South Africa. Well, in South Africa, I'm not 100% sure how many leopards we have in the whole country, but here in the Greater Kruger Park system, they reckon that we have close to 1,000 leopards roaming around in the 8 million acres. Now, of course, this area is a very densely populated area of leopards. Where we are in the Sabi Sands is the highest density of leopards in the world, one of the highest densities in the world. That and the Luangwa, South Luangwa in Zambia, and then a part of India as well, and Yala National Park are the other higher density areas of leopard. So the rest of South Africa, while the leopards do occur there, have much lower populations, so it's difficult to know the exact number within South Africa. Also, because it's a shy reclusive species and one that doesn't move around huge amounts of time, it makes it quite difficult to know the exact number of them. Even the count here in the Kruger Park system is not accurate. They count a lot of the time animals by using a helicopter to fly over and to try and then spot animals like that, and a leopard, being so shy and so well camouflaged, can easily be overlooked, and so you end up with a situation where you've got probably a bigger population than we even realize. There's been leopards recorded in Johannesburg, which is a big city, Cape Town, some of the coastal towns, and so I would say, as a hazard a guess, that there's probably about 2,500 to 3,000 leopards across South Africa. That would be my guess, but their numbers are declining in areas like this where we don't have too many, or here where we're protected, the leopards are thriving, but outside of this, the leopard numbers are declining because of farming and varying other activities where animals unfortunately are being killed by other predators, and they then poison carcasses and the leopards feed off it, and their numbers then decline. So outside of game reserves like this, leopards' numbers are declining, which is a very sad thing because, well, look at them. They are the most stunning animals out here. They're absolutely beautiful. And so hopefully we can start getting to a point where we stop poisoning carcasses and stop this decrease of leopards in the world. So Chitty Chatty Meg, you're wondering what age they get their territory. Well, Chitty Chatty Meg, it's very dependent on the other leopards within the area. So we might find a situation where, like, if you look at Shivambalan in quarantine, there weren't too many other males around, and that meant that they were able to take a territory fairly young. Both of them were in their sort of 4-year-old when they were taking a territory, whereas females tend to be a little bit earlier. We'll find that Shongile will start to set up a territory already now and start to try and work to get it. And by the time she reaches about 2.5 years, she will have some semblance of a territory already set up. It just depends though on the other animals that are within the area and the other females and the other males for a male leopard. So females more younger, at about 2.5 years, whereas males generally only set up a territory when they reach 4.5, 5 to 6 years. So they're much later, and that's because they need to grow and get bigger to be able to actually challenge a territory. So it's either to push another male out or to find an area where an older male is now starting to go nomadic and they can then move in. Whereas females tend to be a lot more local. They tend to take a section of their mother's territory as well as an adjacent section, and so they don't tend to move as much, which means that they can already start to set up their territory much earlier in life, which is very cool. So Shongila's still got a little bit of a way to go, unfortunately. She's still a little bit young to be trying to get a territory of her own. So Jody, you want to know what would happen if Thamba and Hosanna met? Well, Jody, they actually have met before. So there was a sighting the other day with Shongile, Hosanna, Thamba and Thandi all together on a kill, and apparently Thandi and Tumber just watched as Hosanna and Shongile went up into trees close by and just watched them. There was no aggression shown by them. I think Thandi realizes that both of those leopards are young, small leopards. They pose no threat to Tumber in that they are of equal size, and in fact Shongile is probably slightly smaller, and so she wasn't too threatening to them at all. We would also like to think that there's probably some chemical signature that maybe she recognizes that, hang on a second, this might be part of my same lineage. But we know that with leopards they'll even be aggressive to their own daughters once they separate. So it's more a fact that she just wasn't in any way threatened by these two younger leopards. And well, Hosanna, being Hosanna, he just wants to be friends with everybody, and so he kind of looks around and just watches. And the same with Tumber. They are in no way territorial, which means that they're not trying to defend their territory against anybody, and therefore they don't have to worry about chasing anyone away. So right now, I believe Ali has found the ghost of the bush, and I'm not sure what that is, but let's go across and see, because it sounds very exciting.
We have indeed found many ghosts of the bush, the beautiful Kudu, and they are looking also regal. There's, I think, about 3 or 4 of them that were on top of the termite mound. So as we all know, everything that grows in a termite mound, because the termites recycle the nutrients to build the mounds, a lot of the times what grows in there is a bit more palatable. So I'm sure they're up there, but look, well, you are pretty much the queen mother, I'm sure of it, because you are on top all the way there. So I think they're enjoying a double thing, enjoying leaves that are probably a bit tastier, but also it's a good lookout point for them, just to make sure that there are no lions lurking in the distance. So she's gone all the way up there so that she can keep an eye out on things, and she's definitely quite alert. There's something there that caught her attention, and now we have beautiful big ears. And you see the ears are quite tattered, so it's a good indication that this is an older girl. Beautiful. All of them on top of the termite mound. So there she is in the top. There's another one to the left, and I think there might be another one just behind where we can't really see, and one more further below. There we go. So we've got a triangle of Kudu over here, and who ever could imagine that we would actually get it physically, a triangle of Kudu. Wonderful. Well, this was a good surprise, and they're normally known as the ghost. antelope because they can be very hard to spot in some of the areas. In areas where they hunt them, they have quite a bit of nocturnal habits. Marcel, you say that these are floating kudus. Well, almost floating kudus. She is certainly looking quite regal on top of that termite mound with that beautiful light coming from the sun and just warming everything up. Maybe she is a queen of kudus. Ears moving all around. Oh, hi, Bacon. You say that she's got a milk moustache. That's quite funny. Or maybe she does. Maybe she decided that this was the best spot to have a cup of coffee. I think Byron would even agree that this would be a very good place to stop on top of the termite mound, warming up, looking at the sunrise in the distance. I think the kudus are doing it right, and they chose a very good spot. Now, there seem to be quite a few of them scattered all around, so I'm sure at one point maybe all of them were on top of the termite mound. Are you going to start coming down, Your Highness? It seems like she is very carefully treading down the mound. I'm going to eat a few more. Skit, you're wondering how many different antelope species do the females have horn, and you are 12 years old and all the way from Texas. Well, in general, for all of the medium-sized antelope species, the females don't have horns because they prefer to to flee away from their potential predator. And the gazelles, or the smaller species, those are the ones where both males and females tend to have horns. In this particular area where we are, all of the antelope, the females of a medium size don't have horns, and the smaller ones, smaller ones, some of them could potentially have horns. But where we are in South Africa, even the smaller ones, like the Duiker we saw earlier on, the males will have horns and the females don't. I think it's more of a case of springbok and springbok towards more arid areas in South Africa, where it's dry and it's more like the desert, and up all the way in the Masai Mara in Kenya, where some of our colleagues are, that you will find that both males and females have got horns. This particular area that we are working in, I can't even think of any female that might have horns. I don't think there are any. Going down. Kasten, you're in Denmark and you're wondering how long kudus live for. Oh, there we go, is another royal princess. Well, the females live up to maybe 12, 15 years old. And the males tend to live slightly less, maybe until they're about 10. Part of the reason for it is because the males and the females, they breed during the dry season, which means that the males spend a lot of energy trying to find females and then fighting each other off for the right to mate with a particular female, and then just covering quite a bigger distance to try and find them. So they can lose a bit of condition as well, that as they do during the mating, because they're too preoccupied with the mating to really worry about resting. Or I think there's a beautiful view of a male, so let me just try going forward. So because of this, they tend to live maybe a little bit less than the females, which I think is the case for a lot of the creatures that we see around here. Females tend to live slightly longer than the males. And there we go. I don't want to drive too close to them because maybe we'll give them a fright, but we've got a beautiful bull down there and a younger one. So you see how the bigger one, the horns are beautiful and spiral twisting and going up, and the little one's still got very tiny horns. He didn't really like having another boy around, so you see he made himself look bigger. Look how he's intimidating him. And the youngster, he knows that he doesn't stand a chance, so he actually lowers his body and lowers his head into a submissive position, just letting this big kudu know, okay, you're the boss. Oh, now we've got a medium-sized one. Let's see if maybe this one... The Kudus tend to be quite pacific animals. They don't fight too much in between males. However, fights are recorded. But because they can interlock horns, they do mostly what's called a lateral display. So they'll stand side to side with one another just to show how big they are and that they are bigger than their opponent. I think what we're looking at now is just a bit of play fighting. This is quite special, guys. I think this is only the second occasion ever where I've seen Kudus lock horns. Well, that's a very brave youngster. But I also think he knows he doesn't really stand a chance. And you see the aggression level is not too harsh. Oh, look at that. So you see, imagine if the youngster had longer horns. Sometimes it does happen that they get their horns together and then they can't break them apart. And if they can't break them apart, then they're pretty much doomed. Wow, look at that. Isn't that amazing? Those horns like that. I'm sorry, I was singing your praises, guys. Carry on. Douglas, you're wondering what the hump on the kudu's back is and what's its purpose. Well, that's pretty much where the shoulders are. So it doesn't really have any purpose, like, for example, some species of cows that they use them to store fat. In this case, it's just, again, where their joints are, and perhaps they'll have their very strong muscles or tendons that are able to pull their neck all the way up. But other than that, the top of it is just hair that grows there. You can see now he's walking away, so mostly hair. Bumbo girl, you're wondering what is the maximum number of twists that a kudu's horns can have. Well, they normally have, or an average, they'll have 2 or 2.5 twists, so this guy can still carry on growing quite a bit, because he's only coming on to the second twist. Let's see if maybe we can have another look. We're going to try going a bit further down, see if we can have another look at the horns, but normally they will have the first turn when they're about, I would say, 4 years old, and then the second one when they're about 7 to 8, and then if they get a lot older, then they'll get the other half turn. But some of them, and obviously like a lot of the creatures, as the horn starts getting longer, then the horns start going away from each other. So the bigger the gap in between the horns, the longer the horns, or the older the individual as well. Oop. Seems like the guys have gotten into the long grass. Ah, but we've got some right here in front of us, another female and a young male. I'm sure that Kudu is just hanging around waiting for some of these females to become or to come into heat so that he could potentially mate with them. I think we're going to leave this royal party and carry on, but in the meantime let's go over to Thamba, who's also looking quite regal this morning. I wonder if he found a termite mound to jump up on.
Well, he is looking regal, but he's also very curious. Listen to the francolins. Now he's listening to them and watching them, thinking about it, but I think he's quite happy in his thicket. And he's got a little bit nervous. There were some other guests that arrived and he wasn't very sure about it, so he went and tucked himself into a nice thicket where he can just watch from. And, well, we've just stayed right here and at least have a nice window towards his face. And he's now just sitting watching the sun coming up, watching the francolins, and, well, just being generally quite restless. I think he wants to move around, but without Mom being here, he's got to be patient and he's got to sit on a mound somewhere. And you can see, typical of him, and from what we've witnessed over the last little bit, is that he likes higher ground. So as soon as he gets into a situation where he feels as though he's a little bit threatened, up into a higher position, and there goes our crested francolin that's running along. Now we need to thank these guys as well as all of you for letting us know that you saw Thandi and Tumber, but these guys ultimately were the ones that alarm called that allowed us to know that he was in this area, so that's very cool to see them. So Dave, you say you thought leopards enjoyed being in trees. Well, they do enjoy being in trees, but at the end of the day they don't rely on trees only. It's a misconception that everybody thinks that a leopard is always in a tree. That's not the case. Leopards only go up into trees when either they are threatened by another predator and they need to get away in point of safety, they'll go up, or if they're trying to put a carcass up there to get it out of the way of scavengers. And the other reason they'll go up into a tree is if it is a wet day and the grass is all wet and they don't feel like lying in the wet grass, then they often go and lie in treetops. And then if it is a hot day, they'll get up there too, because generally in summer lots of insects on the ground. Up in a tree in the summer months means there's a bit of a breeze and far less insects up there, so you'll find that's why they get up. But they're not nearly as arboreal as everybody thinks they are. Everybody always thinks that in order to see a leopard you need to look in a tree, and while yes, they do spend time in trees, they're not always up there. In fact, I would say probably 90% of the sightings we have are of leopards on the ground. Now Seb, if you can just come quickly onto my dashboard, because there's a very cool spider that's busy walking around on my dashboard. So we got a spider just over here, so you can see where my finger is. There it is, and it's walking with a very funny display. It's got a sort of abdomen up in the air, and I wonder if it's just doing that to show me that it's here and to try and ward me off, try and make itself a lot bigger. So you'll often see this with varying other animals, is when they feel threatened, try and get up and make themselves taller and bigger, much like what we do with an elephant. But you can see how small that spider is, in beautiful colors. It's a lime green color, and it's almost got like a golden backside as well, so, or golden abdomen is probably a better description of it. And there we go, down it goes and off it runs. And I wonder if it's not a baby lynx spider. It looks like a lynx spider. Now, I hadn't seen many lynx spiders before until this year, and it seems like they've been quite out and about. But there we go. Now it's doing a Mission Impossible drop towards the monitor. There we go. A little bit further down. Just going to hang out here. Well, why not? I suppose if you can go and hang on a web and do these awesome little sort of, what is the word for it again when you go down a cliff? Oh, I've forgotten now. I can't remember now. Abseiling, there we go. Thank you, Chantal. So he's doing a bit of abseiling on a Saturday morning, and well, it's the weekend, so it's time for a bit of extreme sport, and why not? But very cool to see. And he's quite an active little fella. He's up and down all over the place, and he's been traversing my dashboard for the last sort of 10 minutes, and has been moving all over. So let's see where he goes. Now, don't come towards my finger. I don't really want you on me, because I don't want to be bitten by you. Even though I know that you're not going to kill me, it's rather better not to have been bitten by a spider. Now, did our leopard move, Seb? Because I hear all the other cars moving, and so maybe little Tumber has decided to move off.
No, it's still there.
No, it's still there. So Chitty Chatty Meg, you want to know if it's see-through. Well, no, it's not see-through. It's got a sort of light green coloration, and then a sort of golden abdomen, and the legs itself, I'm just trying to look at it, don't look as though they see through at all. So he looks as though he's alright. Now sorry, I was just trying to check if maybe Thamba had moved off, because the two vehicles started to move up there, but Thumba's still in his thicket, so we'll try and show you again. But you can see it's not translucent, it's just that it is so small that the legs are so thin that we can actually almost look through them. So as it gets a bit bigger, we'll find that that color will become more vibrant, and so we won't be able to actually see through it nearly as much as what we are now. Oh, little itchy abdomen. Very cool. Just shows you how much life is around us. So not only are we sitting with a leopard, but we've got a little spider, we had the francolins. It just shows you that sometimes when you stop and look around, there is so many things to see and notice. And besides the animals that are moving, just the plant life that we have in abundance around us. We're in a section where we're in a riverbed section, so there's a high water content, which means we've got a lot of interesting plants around us. And sometimes we take all of this for granted. We get so caught up in one thing that it's sometimes good just to stop and just to take notice of what's actually around you and what's going around. So always good to see small and big things. Now I think little Thamba is going to probably spend most of his day inside there. It's nice and shady in there, and well, we know mom's not around, and so until mom comes back, this is where he's going to sleep and take it very easy. See how interested he is in the vehicles. He keeps turning around and watching them as they move. And you see, look at that posture where he lowers his head. That's when he's a little bit more nervous and he's making himself smaller, almost as a way to hide. And so let's see what he does. He might actually decide to come back down this way, unless that vehicle turns off. If the vehicle turns off, then it should be okay. But you'll find that sometimes he will kind of make his head go down and just make himself look a little bit smaller. So that car's passed and he's actually okay, so all is good then. Hey, what are you watching? Well, it looks like he's looking over his shoulder now, and it seems everything catches this little male's attention. You can hear whenever there's a squawk of a bird, flapping of wings, he decides it's time to move, and you'll find him kind of looking in that direction, investigating, and that's typical of a young leopard. He's going to be very aware of everything and wants to know about everything, and he has to, because he's going to learn that way. And so Kylie, you want to know if leopards can be albinos? Well, no, there's no albino, but there is leucism. Now leucism is a slightly different thing to albinos. Albinos have no color pigments, whereas leucism, they get white fur or white color pigments. And so you do get a strawberry leopard is what it's called, and it is a leopard that has a leucistic characteristic, and it has a almost light white tan coat, and it looks very different to what you see here, and the spots themselves are almost a gold color. And there was one that was seen in the northwestern part of South Africa in Duiker Game Reserve for a while, and then we do get the opposite of that, melanistic leopards. So there were some black leopards that had been seen not too far from here. In fact, the Drakensberg Mountains that we see on our western horizon in the afternoons when we watch our sunsets, there were some black leopards that were spotted in those areas. And there's been a big study on it to try and see if they can't find more of them, but so far none that I've heard of. And I know Tara, who used to be a presenter here, she went and studied the black leopards for a while, and I know that they were trying to put up camera traps and all kinds of things, but I don't think they actually ever got a black leopard, did they? Seb, do you know?
There was
they did, but
reports,
a while ago.
But a long time ago.
Yeah, so it was a long time ago, and so nothing of recent. But the strawberry leopard or the leucistic leopard was seen actually fairly recently in 2000, and I think it was 2013 was the last time it was seen. I might be wrong, but it was somewhere in that area and it moved around, and I'm not sure if it's still alive or if unfortunately it's gone. You often find with leucistic animals like white lions or white buffalo that because they stand out so much, they tend to actually not survive as well. So most of the white male lions, because of how light colored they are, they battle a little bit with hunting, and then on top of that they get easily seen by other lions and they get attacked quite often, so they don't tend to sort of survive too much. And look at the shape of the grass. The grass is almost matching the shape of his face and his head. It's kind of going up his muzzle and over his eyes, but you can see how he watches. So the other vehicle is just behind us here, coming over the dam wall, and that's why he's just watching very carefully what's going on. It's interesting to see how he reacts to certain things, and I wonder, it's often a common thing that we talk about amongst us, how because these smaller vehicles that we have, we spend a lot of time with these animals, and often we're in sighting for long periods of time, particularly by ourselves, and it's almost like these animals get a little bit more used to this smaller vehicle and are far more comfortable around it. They seem to be a little bit more nervous of the bigger cars, because we were with Tumber for quite a while before anybody else arrived, and he didn't even bat an eyelid. In fact, he was starting to fall asleep, whereas now he's a lot more jittery, and he doesn't seem to like the fact that there's these bigger vehicles all over the place here. So, Lauren, you want to know if leopards are born with their spots? Well, yes, they are. But it's interesting with the little leopard cub is when you first see them, their spots are so close together because of how small their body is that they actually appear more black than anything else. A little white flecks in the fur, but it looks black. And then as they get older, so those spots start to separate slightly and get the rosettes that we see now on a more larger individual, and so they are spotted, but it's just spots are so tightly packed it almost looks like they're a uniform black color. But if you look very closely, you'll see the little rosettes, just the little coloration in the middle of them, and it's more a white color to start with, and then it starts to get this gold tinge as they get a little bit older. So you can see as spots have separated slightly, and they're now those big rosettes that we know leopards are common for. So they do start out life spotted, much like all the cats, and that spotted sort of look will just help with the ability to camouflage and blend in very, very well. But he's decided not to worry about that vehicle, and he's just watching. And isn't it nice with that bit of light just catching his eye? But you can see he's just watching as that vehicle eases in. He's such a character, this little cat, and I really enjoy spending time with him, and it's been so nice to actually have an opportunity to spend long periods with him. We know that on Chitwa it's quite a busy area, and often we have very short periods that we can spend with him, whereas on this side it's a little bit quieter and we really have a lot of time that we can spend with him. So it's really cool to be able to hang out with him, and so we shall continue to do that and see what else he gets up to and any mischief that he might try this morning. And while we do that, let's go back to Ali and see how her morning is. She must be loving the bit of sunshine that has now started and the wind that has dropped, as it will mean that she's a lot warmer than she was last night.
Well, we have decided to come all the way down to Chitwa Cutline. We were hoping that the sticks would have come this way, so we've come all the way to investigate, but it seems like they have pretty much crossed all of Chitwa and then headed on to Little Gowrie, which, as you guys know, unfortunately it's a property that we cannot go into. One male lion was seen somewhere around Arethusa, I believe, one of the Birmingham boys, and then there are two more still up in Buffalo's Hook eating a buffalo because they've been little fatties and they haven't moved from the same spot for a few days. So I'm still going to go check the boundary, see if perhaps, because they haven't found the Nkahuma, so I want to go check, see if perhaps they didn't come back home, and see what else there is on our road. Seems like pretty much all of the big cats, or some of the bigger cats, have been accounted for. Now there's always room for improvement, so we'll see if maybe some of the smaller spotted cats are somewhere around. That will be wonderful. So far, no tracks on the road. Just lots of hyena activity during the night as usual. But let's see. Where there's a Thamba, there's got to be a Thandi not too far. Joe, you're wondering how many miles do we normally drive on any day? Well, it depends on sighting. So if we get lucky and we have a lot of animals around camp, I mean, I've probably driven around maybe 5-10 Ks, whereas Tristan, I don't think he's even done one, because he found a leopard very close to camp. So also we don't have too much of a big area where we can drive around, so we won't cover too much ground on a daily basis. But in some other areas, some reserves where, for example, the concession is very big, then you'll find that they'll drive around maybe 20-30 Ks a day. Depends on animals. Sometimes they're wonderful and they're right there and you don't have to drive too far to find them. I think this morning though we are driving a bit far to try and find them, but it's fine because it's been such a wonderful morning. Very beautiful light coming in, the clouds have been gone. Ferg is, trying out all his artsy shots, making me stop and hitting me with a stick when I park in front of the wrong branch. So all good. No, you wouldn't hit me, I'm just joking. That's just your shadow. Okay, I'm getting a bit scared now. You're getting a bit too... Alright. Let's see. Sharon, you're wondering why some of us are in jackets and some of us in t-shirts. I wonder who's the one in a t-shirt. Maybe Seb. Seb is quite brave. Well, likely if Tristan and Seb are the ones with the t-shirt or without as many jerseys as us, it's because they've been parked or they've remained stationary in a particular area. So once you're pretty much static and you don't move around, there's not a lot of wind. Then the breeze is very, very cold at the moment. So I'm sure they're actually slightly warmer than what we are. Can you see this tracks here? Whereas us, we've carried on moving. So the cold breeze is actually starting to get in our way. And it's making us very cold. So that's why we are wearing about 4 or 5 layers, and they are probably wearing a lot less. But today is nothing in comparison with yesterday. Yesterday I was even wearing a woolly jersey. Yeah? Yeah, very hairy. But it kept me so warm that I will wear it again in a heartbeat. I thought it might be a bit excessive for today, so I left that one behind. But also I think it depends on everyone's cold resistance. I get cold super easily, and I'm always, in winter, I cannot stop eating or drinking coffee or tea because I'm always cold. And then some other people just love it and they don't really feel cold at all, which is a bit of a disappointment with my northern Latvian blood because I don't think I inherited any of it. And I think the fact that I grew up in a country with no winter also didn't prepare me for this. So I do what I do best. I put everything on. Is it very cold where you grew up, Ferd? Ah, yes. Too cold even for me. Maybe we'll have a hornbill that's greeting us for the morning. Where did you fly off to? All the way up there. One of the prettiest green trees around here. I wonder what tree you are, because you are looking very green. Let's have a closer look at those leaves. A jackalberry tree. Wonderful. I'm sure this jackalberry tree is close to a drainage line, and that's why it's got still beautiful bright green leaves. There must be some underground water to have such stunning leaves when everything else around us is going a bit yellowish and orangey. Hello, hornbill. Going down, hey? Alright, well that is some good leopard camouflage that you're pulling in there. I'm sure you've been watching Hosanna and Shangili around this area. Not too friendly, but yes, that beautiful tree over there that we're looking at, that is a jackalberry, is one of the biggest trees that we get around here, and often they grow close to the river areas. And they take a very long time to grow. This one that we're looking at is probably about, 50 years old. So it is, funny enough, a protected species of tree. Because we also, just like we have endangered animals, we have endangered species of trees because of the trade. A lot of people used to cut too many of them because the wood is very dense and beautiful and it makes fantastic ornaments. And so we have managed to bring their numbers down, but lots of things are being done just to protect them. And one of the things is that rangers are not allowed to drive over these species of tree. So when you start driving in any particular area, you need to learn some of the trees and learn which ones are protected and which ones are not, because some properties are a bit more strict than others, but in general, in all properties, if you drive over the wrong tree, then you can even potentially get fired, because it would be like driving over an endangered animal. And this beautiful one is called a jackalberry because it produces a berry, small little tiny berry the size of maybe a coin, I would say, that is green when it comes out and it can be quite sticky. So it's actually used, maybe some berries? No, would have been too optimistic. But the berries are actually used as glue, as paper glue, because not the berry, but the little sap that comes from the berry that is quite sticky is used as glue. And jackalberry, because jackals absolutely love the berries, and they're often found underneath the floor, just picking up the seeds that maybe baboons have thrown down, and they eat them quite often. So there you go. There's our tree for the day, the beautiful jackalberry. Juniper, you're wondering if it's related to another particular species of tree. Sorry, I couldn't catch what you were saying. Citrus. No, it's not related to citrus as far as I know. just its scientific name, it's Diospyros mispiliformes. So I don't think it's related to citrus. The fruit is quite small, and it's definitely not as tasty as an orangey. Alright, this is definitely one of my favorite trees. They just grow so big, and there's a massive one, but I think it's a bit far from here, otherwise I would show it to you. But also, I don't know if you've ever heard of ebony tree. So the ebony trees grow more towards Central Africa, well, not Central Africa, but to the northern side of Southern Africa. So around Zambia, you'll get them in Zimbabwe, and they look very, very similar, but it's that beautiful dark wood that used to be commercialized, a lot like ivory. So also that didn't help the tree, because a lot of people just wanted that precious wood to build furniture for their houses. But down here, just the jackalberry, which I really enjoy, and so it seemed to do leopards. Alrighty, you elderly tree, good to see you, and bye-bye. We wish you a long and happy life. And you see there, it's growing at the base of a termite mound. So you see, we've come full circle. The termites recycle a lot of the nutrients down in the soil, and maybe what happened is that there was a bird that came onto the termite mound to try and feed him maybe some of the termites, maybe it was sunning there, and as it defecated, then the seeds found a perfect place to germinate. Wonderful. We shall carry on, see if perhaps we can find another interesting tree, perhaps another animal, but while we do that, let's go back to Tristan and see how Thamba is doing this morning.
Well, Tumber is having a Saturday morning cat nap, so he's tucked his head down and just having a nice rest, and you can see he's taking it very easy at this stage and not really worried too much at all. Now, I haven't heard any francolins or anything alarm calling further south of me or around me to indicate that Thandi must be here, and the fact that he's sleeping like this would suggest that she's left him and gone off on her own mission into her own hunting expedition. And so I think this is pretty much what we're going to get from Tumber for the rest of the morning. I think he's going to be very relaxed. Unless Thandi arrives back shortly, I don't think we're going to see too much movement from him. So we'll probably give it a little bit longer and just see, because, well, why not? If we've got a leopard, we might as well spend a lot of time with him and enjoy his company. But you can see how well this animal camouflages. It's really unbelievable to see. So Chitty Chatty Meg. Now this is an interesting one, because you're asking me, while we watch Tumber in his little jungle of his own, whether leopards live in the cities, so in concrete jungles. Well, Chitty Chatty Meg, yes. Funny enough, this is quite an interesting thing, because there's two places in the world where this happens quite regularly. One is in Mumbai, in India. There is a population of leopards there that basically is feeding off all the dogs that are in that city, and you'll find at night they come in, and it's quite interesting to watch as they move around and kind of go through the streets of Mumbai and look around for food. So there's that population. And then here in South Africa, there's been leopards seen in Johannesburg, right in the middle of the city. There's been leopards seen in the middle of Cape Town, in Gordons Bay, which is crazy as well. And so there are leopards that do move into city areas. They are the most adaptable of all of our predators, big cats should we say, not predators, because hyenas are pretty adaptable too, but they're most adaptable of the big cats, and they seem to be able to find a way to eke out an existence completely hidden from others. So they seem to be able to find a way to move around in cities without even people knowing about them. The only reason we know about these leopards in Johannesburg is because one got hit by a car and the other one died of exposure when we had a really cold snap all of a sudden, and it was a young individual and probably just not as healthy as it should be, hasn't got as much food as normal, and maybe just that cold would have killed it like that. And so that's how we know. And then the other ones have been seen by camera traps. So without camera traps, people actually haven't physically seen a lot of these leopards in the actual area. They just know that they exist, and you see tracks every now and then, as well as then the camera traps pick up footage in the night. So it's really interesting to see just how well they do blend in. And in fact, the leopards in Mumbai, nobody really knew about them that much until they started putting up camera traps and using infrared and thermal imaging, and they then worked out this is what was going on. So yes, leopards can survive in cities, but it's not a common thing. They don't really like it. At the end of the day, as we know, predators and people don't mix very well at all, and leopards, unfortunately, because of the way that they operate, dogs are high up on the menu, and when people use their pets, they tend to get quite upset about it, and so the leopard must go. And that's why most of the cities now, leopards no longer exist, but every now and then you'll find them moving around in those areas, in certain areas of the world. So interesting that they can survive in places like that. You would think it would be completely out of their element, but they manage to do it. And it's amazing to watch how nature, and not only leopards but varying other species, have been able to create a opportunity to actually spend time in cities and use cities to their advantage, rather than kind of be pushed out and to lose that area and no longer be able to spend time there. So it's amazing how quickly they can adapt to things. And you can see that when the vehicles start, well, Tumber wakes up. He's always quite interested in what's going on when vehicles are moving around, and so you'll find a system that as soon as there's a vehicle, he'll look up and walk and sort of see what's going on. As soon as everybody quietens down, I think it's going to be back to napping again. I don't think he's going to be awake for too much longer, particularly now that the sun's getting up a little bit higher. Now I believe Ali has found something very small that she wants to show all of you.
We have found two small things. One of them is a big squirrel on the right hand side, and then I don't know if you guys can notice, but there's another one. Tiny little squirrel all the way up there. So this one is about the half the size of the other one, and this is probably the baby, the youngster. So cute. And it's been coming in and out of that hole. I'm sure that's where they spent the night, but I reckon this one is just like me, and it's still a bit too cold to start with life. So they're just sunbathing, getting everything started before they start moving around and looking for food. Isn't this pretty? So small. Not even the tail is long enough yet. So at one point it was just the tail sticking out, and we were laughing because it was grooming its parent. And there seems to be quite a few more squirrels that have been moving around the tree. So I'm sure this is where this particular clan lives, and they can be quite territorial. There's another one, also a youngster. Ah, look at that. That is so sweet. It looks like a punk rock star squirrel with all its hair sticking out. So often squirrels will live in family units, and they will all stay in the same tree. Sassy, you're saying this is cute. I agree with you. That's just precious. It's such a small little squirrel. Well, two of them all together, but I'm loving it. I'm sure these were late borns for the summer season. Going back into the hole, and I'm sure that's gone. I wouldn't be surprised if that tree is actually, this old leadwood is hollow, and it goes all the way, or it will try to go all the way down and then all the way up to the other side where the rest of the family is. You see, it's a very good piece of real estate, this one. It's an old tree. I'm sure lots of cavities are around there, but also quite a sturdy tree, being a leadwood. So it will provide good hideout places for them and just good lookout point. Lauren, you're wondering what species of squirrel this is? Well, in this particular area, we only get one species of squirrel, the tree squirrel. And, gone all the way down again. And although we see it now a lot on the tree, that's mostly where they nest or where they spend the night, but we see them a lot on the ground, just looking for food in general. In South Africa, though, we get another species of squirrel, which is much, much bigger than this one, and it's called the ground squirrel. And they don't go up on the trees, they actually just dig holes and live underground, or that's where they go for safety. I think, judging by the size, this is an older one. Also still quite cold. I mean, look how it's cuddled up all the way there. Can't even see its front feet. And squirrels actually can play quite an important role when trying to find leopards, because they have very, very good eyesight, and you will often see them on top of a tree or on top of a branch, and they'll start making an alarm call that sounds like And they're quite annoying, but they're good because they're persistent, and it's a good way of, having a lookout and being like, oh, okay, there's a potential predator around here. The problem is that they have so many potential predators that sometimes it might not be a leopard, it could be a snake, it could be an eagle, it could be maybe a mongoose, so many things that it gets a bit confusing every now and again. Oh. Falling asleep. John, you're wondering if the squirrels are at much risk of being hunted while they're out here in the open. They can, but I think in this particular case, because they have so many areas where they can retreat to if anything were to come, and I think the only thing that might be able to get to them now is a bird of prey, they would be able to see it coming, and all they would do is pretty much run back into the holes of the tree. Perhaps if there were a leopard around here that were to spot them and decide to go all the way up there and try to get them, might get lucky, but normally they are a bit more at risk when they're down below looking for food and foraging, because they can get a bit distracted and sometimes they don't see the predators coming. But where they are now, I think they are pretty safe. They're able to see anything that's coming their way while they sunbathe and just get their morning going. I think maybe the other ones got back into the hole. Is it just the tail more to the left? No. It's funny because if I look from the car, it just looks like a bull. Michael, you're wondering how many squirrels per family group and at what age do the young disperse? Well, normally the females tend to stick around in the same family group, and the males will start moving when they're about a few months old, because their lifespan is slightly shorter, I believe. I'm not entirely sure of what age. I will have to double check and let you know about that one. But I would assume it's only maybe 6-9 months old. They'll be adults and they'll start moving around, and perhaps just for better mating opportunities, and they'll start moving around because squirrels are quite territorial. So the young males in particular tend to be kicked out of the area where they were born, and they have to go and find a new place and fight for their females to mate with, much like pretty much anything else around this area. Look at that crate camouflage. I know we're looking at it and it looks very obvious, but from quite a distance, or as we were driving around, it's very hard to spot them. So they also use that to be able to hide from their predators. It almost looks like just an extra bump on the tree. This little one is so sweet. I think this one might be my favorite one. Yes, I was talking about you. You see, there's the other stump on the tree. So if you look now from a distance, it doesn't really look like there's anything there. John, you're wondering if we get chipmunks here? No, we don't. The only thing that we get that will be somewhat similar to a chipmunk is the ground squirrel, but also we don't get those ones here. Those ones, we get them in areas that are a bit drier. So how's that for perfect camouflage? We know where to look, and so we can pick up the movement, but if we were to not pay too much attention, poof, we wouldn't even know that they're there, which is exactly what they rely on to be able to survive. Wonderful. Alright, I think we are going to leave the squirrels to their morning routine. Let the little one maybe feel a bit safer and go all the way back. Are you going down? I think it hasn't decided where it wants to go. Look at that fluffy tail. Still not that agile, is it? And look at that tail. I think it got a bit of a fright and then the tail spikes up. And it's just now busy grooming. Oh, that's very sweet. A very sweet moment. Tace, you're wondering if squirrels are nuisance animals here too. Well, they can be around houses and lodges sometimes because they come in through the thatch and then destroy the thatch roofs, or they can break open packets if they smell food, and that causes a bit of a mess, but they are not too terrible. Whoop, all gone back. So they're not too much of a problem. I imagine that compared to other areas, they're fine. Oh my goodness, somebody's woken up and it's full of energy. Maybe the batteries have been recharged already by the sun. And we're going now through a very thorough bath. There we go. Getting rid of all the tiny little things that are there. Mom pinning it down. And now returning the favor. Well done. Oh. I wonder if it's not actually suckling by the looks of it. I think it is. I think we actually managed to get a squirrel suckling from its mother. Well, this is a first. I have never seen this before. Exactly what it's happening. Well, this was a nice surprise. Very sweet moment. Alright guys, I'm going to leave the squirrel and go and investigate a bit further into the bush. It seems like we... Oh, look how... Typical motherly behavior, cleaning it up. So sweet. My goodness. We're going to go and investigate some alarm calls around this area, see if perhaps there's anything here we'd like to see. But while we do that, let's go over to Tristan, who's enjoying Thamba's company still.
I am indeed, but I'm busy looking at all the birds that are starting to come out, because there's lots of birds around that are shouting at poor little Thamba. There's some chin spot batis around, black flycatcher. There was a green-backed Chimeroptera, and you see the little chin spot batis there, Seb? It's just on the edge of the tree. Just go a little bit higher, and then straight in there. You should, in the middle of the frame, there's a little chin spot batis that's bouncing around. Now down a little bit for me.
What are those?
That's a nice, a little apellus. So that is now a yellow-throated apellus. I think it's yellow-throated or yellow-breasted apellus. You see them a lot in these areas. They like drainage lines, so he's around too. And it's a really nice bird party we've got this morning. And look at how it's bouncing around inside there. I'm going to try and find it in the book just to confirm the exact sort of second part of the name. I know it's a yellow-throated or yellow-breasted. Just hold on. But very cool to see. They're not ones that we get on camera very often because they bounce around so much. So we're definitely going to try and see if I can't find more bird species. Where is my chin spot batis gone? There's my chin spot batis. You see it bouncing around just underneath where the apelluses are. So center of the tree really. And you can just zoom in there. There's lots of birds bouncing around. You should be able to pick up one of them. There we go. So yellow-breasted apellus. So there we go. It's this guy over here. Now the sun is very bright on my book, so I do apologize. I can't really see what's going on, but there it is. You can see that little yellow throat that we've got there, the little black bar that we saw, and then that grey cap and the greenish wings, and then the typical very long tail that flicks about as they move. So that's a really nice one to get. It's not one that we see that often. And I was actually just having a look here. They breed at this time of the year too. So you see in June they actually are breeders. So they don't breed very commonly in this time, but they can be breeding. So that little bee tells you that they can breed May and June, which is very odd. Most of our birds generally are breeding more in the sort of summer months. So very cool. Now, like I say, a really nice bird party, and I think they've all been attracted by the alarm calls that one or two of them have let off because of the leopard that's here. So what happens often with birds is when a leopard is around or a predator is around, alarm calls go out and all the other birds then come and flock to that area to try and spot what it is and to try and make a big noise and ward that predator off. You see it a lot with snakes and then sometimes with leopards, and so that's probably why we ended up with so many. Seb, can you try on the edge of the tree there? Oh no, it's not just gone in. But right on the right-hand side of the tree is a little bird that's bouncing around. And so I wanted to just quickly check what it was. There we go, right to the edge, go down a little bit. Oh, did it just move again? It did. You can just see the movement in there. You see it bouncing between. So that's our chin spot batises that are moving around. There it is. So that's the female with the big bright chin spot, that rusty chin that you can see there. So that's where they get the name from, and the male won't have that, so he's a little bit more plain. And there's our yellow-breasted apalices that are bouncing around. Oh, just flew away. And there was another bird in here that I was battling to ID. It was a much larger bird and also yellow in coloration, but I didn't get a good idea on it. I'm going to look through my book a little bit later because it had a very distinct... there's a puffback. So there's our puffback with the bright red eye and white chest and black wings, and they're called puffbacks because they get this sort of snowball feathers shape on their back that puffs out when they're displaying to females, so that's where they get their name from. So they're also in there. Wow, it's really cool. There's so many birds inside this one tree. Sometimes you just got to stop and look around. As Byron would say, tip of the day, stop and look around and try and see what's going on. Now, I miss Byron actually. Last night was a lot quieter around the dinner table. He was always good for a laugh, particularly around the dinner table. Seemed to bring out his chatty side.
We're boring?
No. So, chitty chatty Meg, you wondering if these birds lay eggs, even when they're not breeding, like chickens do? Not as far as I know, chitty chatty Meg. Now, hold on, Seb, we've got a woodpecker as well. Oh, no, it flew out over the top of us, but it looked like a golden-tailed woodpecker that was also in there. Now, chitty chatty Meg, no, not as far as I know. Most of these birds will construct a nest and will only lay the eggs when they are actually breeding. But it might be possible in certain of the species, but not as far as I've ever read or heard. But it could be possible. I mean, there's a lot of the times with nests, we don't actually go and physically check what's inside the nest just because we don't want to cause any issues and don't want to try and disturb that animal in any way or that bird. And so if you see them nesting, it's normally when they have actually bred and laid eggs for the purpose of actually having chicks. And so most of it is only when they're breeding, not just laying eggs for the sake of laying eggs. Right, who is this?